Thank you, and I will come back to that later as well. And I think that's a big group effort that we have done. And I think you all know now that we yesterday closed the deal acquiring the first 91 biodiversity credits from Orsa Besparingsskog. I will come back to that later today or in my presentation. My name is Erik Engelbrekts. I work as an analyst at Swedbank, responsible for forestry and agriculture. Today I'm replacing Fredrik Nilsén, who should have been here talking about the role of the financial sector in this transition. And I think coming to that transition, I think I'm not going to cover that as only biodiversity, but as the sustainability transition. I think also concluding the discussion today, it's not a matter of climate or biodiversity. It's actually combining those and even maybe more factors into the transitional journey that we're on. Working with forest and agriculture, I come across the sustainability agenda quite a lot. Both these sectors are highly linked to the climate and the biodiversity transition, being a part of biological processes, or actually being biological processes, as you all know. They can also be seen as a part of the problem to why we're here, but they also sits on huge potential or solutions on solving these problems going forward, and that is also why I got involved in the biodiversity credit project with Alexandra. Where do we move this one? There. Before talking about this, I will quote our chairman of the board, Göran Persson. He sometimes says that the transformation that the society is now undertaking is the biggest one since after the Second World War, and the climate and the sustainability and the climate change and the extinction of species is going fast, and we have to act now. And committed to take part of that transformation is Swedbank. And it's very important, and the financial sector will have an important role to play in that transition. In Swedbank, we have a 200-year-old history in educating our customers, making sustainable choices. We have savings in our DNA coming from the savings bank, and we also have forestry and agriculture in our roots from the Jordbrukskassorna. So based on that history that we have and our commitment to actually take part of this transition going forward, we have formed a vision of a financially sound and sustainable society, and that kind of goes like a red thread in all that we do at Swedbank. We have built a strategy based on that vision, and we have built a sustainable business strategy rather than to have a sustainability strategy, and that's kind of quite a fine distinction on how we see this and on how we see sustainability at Swedbank. Within that, we have our customer promise, where we are committed to support our customers in their sustainability journey. And I think that's going to be the concluding remark after my presentation as well, that the financial sector's role in this transition will be to support our customers and the society to transform, actually. And this goes rather, or whether it's going to be an investment in solar panels, financing of fossil-free transportation, replacing equipment for energy efficiency, or whatever it might be. The transition will require a lot. Someone talked about earlier about business models and changes in business models. This will affect current business models a lot. And we will have to rethink the way that we view energy, how we move things and products across, what materials that we use or reuse, the food that we produce and the food that we eat. All what we do on a daily basis in a society is up for a change or up for a challenge. Comparing with what the society went through after the Second World War is that today we have much more information and much more data, which have been also elaborated with today. And that's a positive thing. That's something that we can build on, and that's something that maybe will bring us through this as well. But it will require huge investments, and I think Alexandra also mentioned in her presentation the big gap for financing the transition only in biodiversity. If we add on then also the climate change, it's going to be massive. And the role of the financial sector is to channel capital flows, shifting capital flows from traditional, not sustainable investments and so into what is considered an sustainable businesses, sustainable business models. This opens up also big opportunities for us as a bank, but also for industries going forward. But we should be aware of that. It's also a big matter of downside risk, also for us as an investor, as a bank, but also for business models that might be obsolete going forward. And I don't think it's going to leave any business unaffected. Even forestry, agriculture, businesses as we know them today or in the history, historically, will have to adapt, most likely. Disorderly, yeah, that was that one. Someone will be actually left behind, and someone will not be a part of the society tomorrow as we have known them historically. Knowledge and learning will be key, of course. We need to be able to understand what kind of investments that we're going to finance going forward will be the one that succeed and that will actually drive the change of tomorrow. So how should this be done, and how do we take this forward? I've heard it from the first presentation that the pressure from the society is on from all angles. We have a regulator in the EU, for example, that have a massive program with different regulations coming on both on corporates but also on the financial sectors. In that context, I think we also should understand that a lot of the reporting requirements lies on big corporations and on the financial sectors. But given the requirements and the need of transparency and being able to report on the complete value chain will actually affect also small companies being a part of the value chain of the bigger corporations that are eligible to report on different regulations. From a banking perspective, we also have authorities, the FSCA, actually expecting us to understand the risk in our lending portfolio when it comes to climate and biodiversity related issues. So me as a credit analyst will have, and that's also why I come across more and more often climate and sustainability related questions. That has to be included in the risk assessment of our counterparties. Investors will ask for, and we saw also examples on that earlier, will ask us for reporting on our finance emissions. the financial sector will not be the ones actually producing green steel or sustainable forestry or whatever that can be, but we will be expected to disclose how our finance or how the products that we finance are contributing to the transition and what negatives effect there are in those financed or in that capital that we channel out to the market. Transparency will be key. It will also include, as we said earlier, not only biodiversity, it's going to include climate, it's going to include also social aspects. But transparency is also good because that's going to bring information through us via our clients, and that will support increased knowledge throughout the value chain as well. And together with our clients and the society, we'll be able to deliver on our vision of a more financially sound and sustainable society. Transparency will also be a very important factor because greenwash, which have been up here a few times already today, must be avoided because that will actually have a negative effect rather than a positive effect. And as I said earlier, the sustainability is an integrated part of our strategy going forward. It includes how we report. It's included in our risk management. It's included in our internal steering and in internal monitoring. But it will also be an important part of our products and services that we're putting out in the market. This, and I think that's also been stressed earlier today, this is not the work that's done by a person, by a company, by a sector, but it's a group assessment. It's something that we will have to explore together and in different partnerships. And that is also why we are involved in various different networks to learn more and to be able to also impact and drive the development. Coming back to the investment that we recently did then in the biodiversity credits that we acquired from Orsa Besparingsskog, we see that as something that's very hands-on. That's something that we're going to learn more from. We have done this investment because we would like to understand how that could be have the potential to actually be a new set of cash flow for our customers, and also how that can have the possibility or the potential to, on a voluntary basis, also improve biodiversity going forward. So just to conclude, Swedbank is committed to contribute to this transition. The transition and the role of the financial sector, that will be made, and that's going to go through our customers to the largest extent. And it's going to build on collaboration with other actors. So I think I stop there, and I will have some time also for questions.
Okay, thank you very much, Erik. I was sitting down there thinking about what you said, that well, this is something you have to do, not as an individual can do, but you have to be a group working together, and that there are many people involved. And And then I thought about that, why and how did all this start? What was starting the starting process here in the and I'm not sure if you know this, but once happened to be invited to the board of Swedbank. For some strange reasons, they wanted to have someone to talk about forestry and the forest sector and what could be seen into the future. And what I learned was that the board members of Swedbank, they were not very well educated in forestry. The first thing they didn't know was what is the symbol of the bank and what is also outside your big, huge building out there. And then I told them that, but you have an oak tree. This is an oak tree as a symbol of a long-lasting business bank. And you have the Sweden's largest, what is it called? It's not an inn, it's a fund company, Swedbank Robur. And I asked them, do you know what the name Robur, where it comes from? And they had absolutely no idea. And then I told them that the oak tree in the Latin name is Quercus robur. So the whole bank is more or less associated to forests and forestry. And I think I was a little bit over enthusiastic at the time, so I kind of asked them, why don't you do anything from? I mean, you have a fantastic story. You can talk about how to develop forests and forestry in different ways. And we talked about climate change mitigation and about biodiversity issues. And after the meeting, your CEO, Jens Henriksson, he came up to me and then he said, you have to bring this Alexandra Hornlund to a lunch meeting. And I think this was how it all started. And this is also why Swedbank is now in, you can say you're in the group of the people that are pulling this development into the future. So it's not always about working in big teams. You also sometimes need some person to give you the direction, like your CEO that did that time. So, but with this said, this was outside the program. Yeah. Perhaps if you could speculate a little bit more about how your involvement will be then in the future here. Now you have like taken a first quite unique step, and that creates some expectations. Everyone is now waiting for Swedbank. You did like this, but what would happen now? Will there be this, or will you take? Well. What will you do you think?
I mean, the contract that we have with Orsa Besparingsskog, that's 20 years going forward. So for sure that will be long-lasting. And I think this will, I mean, Alexandra also said that we don't know what's going to happen after the first revision in 5 years. But we will be an active part together with Orsa, understanding, okay, how can this be brought forward? It's also going to be very interesting to see, okay, what will be the demand side and who else? I mean, we made this investment just to be a part of the research and development and to be able to explore, okay, what are the other opportunities going forward? So we will continue to drive this pilot together with Orsa, I would say. And there are a lot of bits and pieces and a lot of question marks also that Alexandra raised, and we are really eager also to understand the answer on these questions as well. And once they are straightened out, then we know whether the biocredits will be a complement or one piece of the puzzle that can contribute to a richer biodiversity going forward, and also something that maybe can support our clients, forest owners, also to find new ways of doing business while also being more or having a more sustainable forest management.
But do you think that I mean, if there are a lot of ifs, but if biodiversity will add value to a forest estate, and it might even be so that climate mitigation or climate change mitigation and carbon sinks can add another value to a forest estate together with the roundwood, and perhaps even more values that can be added. Can a forest estate become more valuable in the future, which I suppose would be of great interest for a bank, since you have financed quite a lot of forest businesses in Sweden. So I mean, if this increases the total value of a forest estate, isn't that kind of interesting for a bank?
I think credit risk, that's a matter of repayment capacity, I think. And the biodiversity credits, they open up new ways of actually generating repayment capacity on a forest estate, regardless of what the value is. But of course, also you could also state that if there's no repayment capacity, what's the value of the forest then from a credit lending perspective? There are of course many other values associated with land, of course, but from a banking and credit risk perspective, repayment capacity is the basis in understanding that risk, and that's also why additional cash flow possibilities is of interest for a bank.
Okay, now I learned a new word, repayment capacity. I will try to remember that. That sounds perfect. Do we have comments or questions from the audience? I think that if not, I think that we should start to wrap up this day. And we thank you again for a good, nice presentation.